making it through from the discussion we've had yesterday with some debate as to whether or not 6-3 was sufficient. We have another match lined up. We've got Immortallion coming up against Shoop. Again, Shoop, another 6-0 player currently in the Swiss rounds. It's really like a big kickoff to the day, but it's going to give us a good baseline to go off of as through the day, we'll get the full top 16 at the end, and we'll be able to see how things progress. Because the standings right now do not necessarily reflect who makes it. If Shoop wins, loses 3 times in a row, that could be
in trouble.
Yeah, could be.
It's also worth
tough.
pointing out while we're here, we probably won't show the 7-0, 8-0 players. I know people like to see them, but you're going to see them again in the top 16. There's no point showing you players who are already through. So we're showing the matches where players can get most likely through, and then we'll let them sort of sleep for a little bit, unless something crazy comes up. Yeah, we're not going to ignore Chucky versus Amnesiac or something, but yeah. Other than that, let's have a look how this game is going to go down. Yeah,
the picks and bans for these two players coming right up. They're starting 0-0 in this round, so we'll get the full experience. Shoop on Rogue, Paladin, Mage, and Priest. Immortallion with Priest, Rogue, Druid, and Shaman. So 2 classes difference for both of these players. The Priest being banned for Shoop. Immortallion's Rogue, again, being very respected. It seems like Rogue bans are more and more common in the event.
Yeah, definitely been a thing since the HCT finals the other day, actually. The Rogue is just a bannable class, finally.
Yeah.
And we talked about that a bit yesterday. It's more easy to isolate as a class, more difficult to isolate as a class than, say, Druid and Priest. You can try and counter them together a little bit.
Yeah, it's also that Shoop is bringing Murloc Paladin, which is especially weak, I'd say, to the Rogue builds. I feel like Murloc Paladin used to capitalize on getting the snowball going, but Rogues are better at denying it. And if you don't get the snowball going as Murloc Paladin, you get nothing going. And so you're so dependent on it that it has to happen. Let's get into game number 1 between these two guys, see what decks they chose to start off with. Rogue for Shoop, Immortallion going to go for the Priest. So this is going to be something of a good matchup for Shoop. Shoop's pretty happy about this kind of opener.
If you think you recognize Immortallion and you're not sure where from, he beat Muzzy at the very start of yesterday's show in round 1. He's managed to carry that through to a 5-1 record. By the way, so has Muzzy. That was Muzzy's only loss of the tournament so far. He's up here on 5-1 as well.
I'm pretty hyped to see how this ends up. I mean, we have, again, we spoke about that, but we have all the, well, a lot of the former champions for DreamHack. You know, we even have Austin's inaugural champion of 2016 with Shocky in the event. Shoop took the win, you know, this year, so it's just been a crazy stacked field.
And Shoop flies under the radar a lot, despite being a DreamHack winner. If you count the 6-0 in this event, he has 30 wins and 12 losses, which is 71% in DreamHack Grand Prix.
Yeah, and it's all a Swiss format, so of course you face off against a variety of opponents, which makes the matter even more about preparation. You have to know not only the matchups, but how to prepare for this. And he seems very comfortable. He kept the Bittertide Hydra in the opening hand here, we can see. And the reason for that is very simple, is that Priest only has so many answers to it, and that's Shadow or Death.
I think it's the card that swings the matchup slightly towards the Rogue and in favor of the Rogue, whereas if without the Bitter Hides, you tend to be slightly unfavored, I feel. It just gives the Priest that one extra mid-game threat. We talked about that in the Zoom match a minute ago. Just one extra huge thing to do in the mid-game where all they really have is Shadow or Death plus silly combos.
Yeah, silly combos. You know, something like Kazaku's Potion with Polymorph. There are fringe cases where you can find some weird card generation. It gets you there, but for the most part, what ends up happening is you, as a Rogue, you choose between Cobalt Scalebane and Bittertide Hydra. Cobalt Scalebane is trying to dodge Dragonfire Potion and develop more power immediately. I mean, over time,
I like it when you play 3 of those cards instead of 2.
Yes, some people have been attempting to do that.
Just means you're almost guaranteed to play one on turn 5, and you've got a good chance of playing another on turn 6, and Anduin doesn't come down till 8.
Till 8, exactly. So if you can stick one of these big minions early, if you're able even to curve into the Bone Mare turn, that's even more potent.
Now, this is a big deal, because this Edwin, it doesn't matter if it goes or if it doesn't, unless it gets silenced. This is making room for the Hydra, unless it wins the game on its own, but in the real world, it's just making room for the Hydra to do its job properly.
Shoop with Deadly Poison. You know, I'd like to just stop here for a second. This is not a card you see a lot in Rogue, but it just tilts the matchup even further in their favor, I guess, in this sense, because it beats the Zoo decks that you expect. There's a lot of Shaman, so you can take out all the totems. Primal Fin dies, and
it's more that it beats the Zoo decks that we didn't expect.
Yes.
But Shoop has called it. He's ready for these Zoo decks, whereas maybe the Zoo decks are running a bit riot over most of the other rogues. But Deadly Poison is a nod to, I knew what was coming this meta, and when you know what's coming in the meta, it turns out you go 6-0.
Yeah, it's a good card. Deadly Poison is good, but since Blade Flurry's gone, I guess, we could say that no one really wants to, I wouldn't say bite the bullet, but it's just one of these cards that doesn't feel like it's got good applicability. It was worse in the previous metagame where there were more control decks, so you had less board fighting to do. But now that you're tempo deck, 1 mana, kill 2 things over 2 turns.
And you're playing Bile Spines, you're playing Edwin, you're playing SI7.
Yes.
So it's not wasted in terms of, oh no, I've got nothing to hit for my extra +2. You're comboing with it as well with a lot of your power cards.
It just seems to fit,
yes,
in a nutshell. And Shoop, off to an amazing start. There is no way for Immortallion to clean up any of this at the moment.
If he does, the Hydra just comes down and says, now you've got to deal with me.
I mean, Immortallion could technically find something like well, specifically Akinai Soul Priest for turn 6 with Circle of Healing, killing the 5/4, pinging the 6/6 down to finally isolate it, but even in that case, it's far from guaranteed to save him.
It's unfair that Priest doesn't have Blizzard.
Oh yeah, it's unfair. We should give them Blizzard.
Yeah. Or Frost Nova. Imagine Frost Nova in this deck. That'd be better. Wiped out Nox for the day. With
I'm hurt. I'd rather not think about it.
So, Immortallion doing the right thing. He realizes he's not going to clean up all this stuff with just spells alone and trying his hardest to get something out there on the board to challenge back with.
Yeah, and the Bittertide Hydra number 2 for Shoop coming right up. Nothing is better than a Bittertide Hydra after the first one, oftentimes, as you're able to then guarantee they stick. There's some caution you have to take with the amount of damage you're going to take from both of them.
Sure, but Edwin's paving the way.
So
6/6 Edwin's just saying these Hydras are golden.
Yeah, and look at the amount of damage that's being pushed here. Patches with Cold Blood, that's a guaranteed 5. Bittertide connecting, that's another 8. So the lethal is looming. Unless Immortallion picked up a Shadow Word Death here, or some form of board clear with Akinai Circle, where he can literally wipe out the entire board, there was very little that Immortallion could do. And Shoop had spotted that just based on the way the last turn played out.
Yeah, Immortallion desperately in need of a Priest of the Feast or anything to get him to that turn 8, but when you're facing double Hydra, turn 8's just so far away.
Yeah, I feel like we'll just see the Binding Heal come out as a means to keep Immortallion afloat while this is all sort of waiting to happen.
Yeah, trying everything here.
I mean, this is the Doomsayer that says, well, if you can't kill me now, then you're going to need some follow-up aggression. Shoop has the Patches Cold Blood, but that's only a total of 19 at the moment, I believe, as he's got 14 plus 5, well, 20 with the hero power,
yeah.
So he's 1 off of...
Oh, there we go.
Never mind.
Just keep counting, Nox. The numbers kept going bigger and bigger until they got to the magic number, and Shoop is going to get the 1-0 lead the easy way.
Yeah, and the Cold Blood, I mean, the Deadly Poison played such a huge role in this game, protecting the minions for Shoop, making sure that he was transitioning into that mid-game with a guaranteed board.
And Edwin's still there.
Yeah, it hasn't moved since the turn that he played it as a 6/6 with a Deadly Poison. It was completely backbreaking for Immortallion.
Shoop off to an amazing 1-0 start. Obviously, he is getting the down float here. He's the 6-0, whereas Immortallion is the 5-1.
Yeah, Shaman left for Immortallion. Getting the Priest out of the way there was pretty meaningful for Shoop. The Shaman, though, could sometimes pose a bit of a problem. I mean, the list that Immortallion is running is still running the Devolved, it's still running the Bloodlust. So once that ticks, it's very powerful, but going
Does Shaman ever feel like when someone queues Shaman against you and you're playing a Hearthstone deck, do you ever feel terrified?
I just never know how much of a blowout it's going to be. There's something about it that just, no matter the deck I'm running, it just hurts.
But it's also, you never sit there and go, this Shaman's always going to kill me. You never feel like,
no,
I am now powerless to resist.
It's no longer the case. That's true. Shaman just feels like that deck that you're terrified of it, but at the same time, you're also, it looks like sometimes it just falls flat like a wet noodle.
I'm terrified of monsters under the bed, but when I look there's never actually anything there. And I think Shaman's a bit like that at the moment.
That's how it feels, definitely. But Rogue's got all the tools to fight back, especially with the addition of the Deadly Poison in Shoop's list. You know, that's a very powerful opener.
It's a Dread Corsair.
Sure, let's get the deadly poison value. You want to talk about Naga Corsair, Dread Corsair? This is it.
Yeah, very nice. And interesting because we spoke about this yesterday as well. Galaka Crawlers on the decline. There's still quite a few about, but not the overwhelming number like there were before. So what better time to sneak a Corsair into it? Play more Pirates.
Yeah, there's no way it's going to get taken out in most of the matchups that you expected it to die.
And even if it does, you've just got more Pirates. You can't grab them all.
Yeah. Well, Shoop's got a decent hand. The strong point for Rogue in this matchup really is the dagger. Without that hero power, Rogue would just get completely torn apart. But that's a trademark of the class. That is what makes the class as powerful as it is.
It's what makes Kellerseth as powerful as it is.
Yes.
You don't care if you miss your 2-drop. That's why it's so good in Rogue, and Rogue pretty much alone. We know there's Zoo, I understand that, but Rogue's hero power is the reason that you can play Kellerseth.
And now a slowing down of the tempo here. The double, Blood Cell Corsair really forces Shoop to slow down some of his development.
Same deck?
It is, but it's got more of the pirate package in the opening hand this time. Does not feel particularly good. He does, however, have the ability to play a pirate now with the patches coming out. It's just that he's sacrificing so much in the process with the Jade Claws already having been developed and his dagger not being there. The 1/1 lives. The dagger disappearing here makes all the difference.
Yes. Dagger management has been so important since the beginning of time for Hearthstone, but sometimes you just have to use those up to make sure you don't die early. Big deal here for Immortallion picking up the Doppelgangster. One way you can just blow Rogue out is the old favoured Doppelgangster Evolve, because Rogue has not got the AoE you were talking about a minute ago to wipe out those big wide boards full of 5/5s.
Yeah, usually Rogue is able to fight back when the early game begins, in the early phases, but when you've defused their weapon, when you've not let them really develop anything, and you have the weapon yourself that's not being handled, you have the edge in that case. So the early tempo game in this matchup specifically comes down to weapon management and the charges and where they go. Backstab is a big deal for tempo, but unless Shoop picks up his own 1-drops, very often the first guy to get there by turn 3 or 4 just has it for the rest of the game.
There's a certain irony in Rogue not being able to deal with a whole board of 5/5s. It makes me happy.
Yeah, there's some...
They spent long enough doing that to other people.
There's some divine justice in it. Oh, the Stoneclaw Totem. What a result here. Shoop is locked out of killing the Flame Tongue and the 1/1 for the time being. He's going to have to use that backstab just to kill the 3/1, it seems. Never mind.
Don't worry about that. He can kill the entire board. What are you talking about?
Noxious Slide.
Noxious Slide, everybody. Suddenly Shoop can just clear everything up and have a 3/4 on the board. Is Vile Spine good?
Well, Vile Spine's got better targets in the matchup, sadly. You're waiting sort of for the things from below to really come out. So as long as you can afford not rushing into it, it's not a bad idea. Captain Greenskin in the deck, I'd like to just point out, unusual. I'm not sure if it points to there being something like a Shadow Blade.
I mean, it's borderline Pirate Rogue at this point.
We're missing the Lucky Do Buccaneers, but yeah, we're going there.
Wow.
I love them Lucky Do.
Squid Face would be handy. I don't know if he's a pirate, but he helps your weapons.
It's a cool card.
I'm surprised that card never saw any play, actually.
I mean, it has to die, right, to give you the buff. If it were a battle cry, I'd play it.
Sure.
No question.
So, Immortallion playing on the fact there is that lack of AoE for Rogue. Also, a little bit of a nod to the fact he's getting behind. Just have to sometimes play these Doppelgangsters and hope that they either stick or that you pick up a way to evolve them later.
Yeah, he's got a follow-up, right? It's not too bad with the Eye of Blakba and the Bone Mare. So it's likely that he's going to get that 6 into 7 curve as it stands, more so if resources are expended to deal with these Doppelgangsters. But he's recognizing that the one thing you can't let a Rogue do is get their own tempo on. And so just forcing them to slow down.
Now, Shoop's got an interesting decision here. He wants to kill off this Flame Tongue. That's the obvious play to make. But you're still wary of letting Doppelgangsters hang about, even if you know your opponent, and you can probably work out there's no Evolve right now because of the way the board's being played. You're still wary of the top deck. There's 3 top decks that can evolve those things. You've still got to take care of them. But he lets one live, figures that what's the worst that could happen.
Yeah, Shoop's also got the ability to re-dagger with a full deadly poison. There was the option of deadly poisoning with the Valid Spine this turn.
Right.
And just using it as a means to trigger the Dread Corsair being played right away as a protection tool. The drawback of that, of course, is that while you use a deadly poison for a single attack, which really just does not feel good. So if you can extract some more value out of that dagger hit, it's something to consider. And that's the type of hand that lets you do it. That draw right there.
Yeah, this deck has a lot more board control from hand than normal. With the extra weapons, with the extra SIs, sacrifices a little bit in minion control of your own, but in return, it means they've got a clear path a lot more often.
Yeah, Shoop has the Deadly Poison, SI, Dread Corsair turn. The cost of the Dread Corsair here going down to 1 is very impactful. It protects the 7-4, which at the moment is not being answered. And that's the key point. It just does not meet with an answer. You have to take care, I feel like, of the minions. The issue is, when you do, you're expending a ton of resources, and if nothing happens, you just can't do it. So Bone Mare is the worst case scenario.
Right, and you know you can't kill everything, so why mess with Aya at all? If you know that...
Well, he could have killed everything, I think, with the... I mean, that is, he couldn't kill everything unless he used the 7-4 to smash into the...
Things would have been bad for him in terms of
Golem
stuff. And also, you don't have to be against the Bone Mare. It doesn't have to be in your opponent's deck, at which point, if it's a close decision anyway, you might as well have that few % on your side for when they don't have it at all, because this kind of sets up lethal in some scenarios.
Yeah, and Immortallion is going to be taking the route of making a 7-7 with taunt. The 7-4 with a Cold Blood buff from earlier can handle this. The Leroy Jenkins was mostly what Shoop was relying on to close this game
Here's
out.
the Mist Caller.
Yeah, sure. At least it can be played this turn.
Sure.
I'll give it that. It's not that awful.
Not very nice board state for Shoop suddenly, though. The upside for him is at any point now, Leroy plus Shadow Step's just going to win the game. So he has a bit of time for that to happen.
Not that much, though. Once the Totems start coming out and the Stone Claw comes out, that's when you're sort of locked out of the game. So Shoop is going to be forced into an aggressive line. I mean, he's taken it last turn.
Yeah, he said he chose
to just commit the damage, hoping the Bone Mare would not show up. Very often, Shaman runs 1 copy, not necessarily 2, so...
Yeah. Yeah, and occasionally it's not even there at all. I mean, you expect it now. I don't know how much word gets around. Immortallion's already been on stream once, of course, but round 7, the start of day 2, I feel the players have a much more solid understanding of what they're up against, just because all of these players are top players. They all know each other. And I think you can probably find someone who will tell you something about your opponent's deck list at this point in the proceedings. Yeah,
Shoop has many draws that win the game here, even if a Stoneclaw Totem comes out. So he's got the South Sea deckhand that can help. As long as one of these 2 minions and Leroy connects, he wins.
Yep.
That's the important part. And even if they don't connect, then he still wins on the following turn if no taunts come up, given that he's going to have the dagger hits occur twice. Shadow Step can be helpful. You've got the South Sea deckhands. There's so many little plays that give him the win here.
That's not a taunt. And Immortallion knows that card in hand is likely to be damaged. There's so much damage it could be with Cold Bloods, with Leroy's, with Shadow Steps.
Yeah, it could not really be Bone Mare. You would have seen him probably come down this turn instead of a measly 2-2.
So all he could do is play as if it's not there. We can see it is, and Shoop is going to win the counter match, if you like, the match that Immortallion wanted to queue into this, and he's going to go to 2-0 ahead.
Yeah, and this is pretty much what Rogue wants to do. I mean, the way that Shoop built the deck leads him into that position where it's got better board control against the Shaman because of the deadly poison. We keep talking about that, but in this case, it ended up mattering for damage output, where he ended up attacking face with the deadly poison twice, pushing 6. He committed to that line of play earlier. There was a decent trade where you could have killed Aya with the deadly, then used the Captain Greenskin to finish off the 3-3, play around Bone Mare, and maybe then just keep going on. The issue with that line of play is that it's not aggressive enough. It's weave to Maelstrom Portal. There are so many little things that can go wrong that you might as well play around the 1 of Bone Mare, that is the 2 Maelstrom Portals rather than the 1 of Bone Mare. So.
Yeah, he just made that decision there and then, and it saved him a lot of resources, and he only won by just enough resources, so it's a good job that he did do that. And talking of resources, Immortallion has none in this particular hand. needs to find something, and he needs to find something fast in this mulligan, or he's going to just get run over by pirates.
Yeah, Temple Rogue is notoriously... Well, it's in the trinity of the top decks, right?
Yes.
It's in the trinity of the best decks that exist. And I'm not sure how the Deadly Poison lines up in this specific case, because that's the unique introduction to the deck list. It's good against Jade Spirit.
Yep.
It's fine against Aya in the mid game. It'll help you use like a Keleseth buff, South Sea deckhand just to pop a Jade Behemoth. But it's not.
Does that mulligan seem greedy to you? Immortallion choosing to keep a swipe with no ramp or anything as an only card? I mean, it looks good here until these guys get buffed.
It's good against Naga Corsair and the 1/1s. It's fairly good against Dread Corsairs with the Deadly Poison development. It's just really weak against the South Sea Captains that we see here.
It's more of a 1-for-1 card than a board sweeper normally, despite the fact there's some 1-health.
Yes.
There aren't many 1-health minions.
Yeah, you can expect there to have been maybe 1 or 2, but you're effective. Like Swashbuckler is not really. You're not extracting value when you kill Swashbuckler.
I just felt that with no ramp in hand, it was a little bit risky. I mean, sometimes you have to take these risks. Sometimes if the card's good enough in the matchup, you do take the risk. I'm sure he has played this matchup a lot more than I have, so I'm going to go with his mulligan over mine. It just seemed like an interesting keep.
Maybe his deck is tech differently. Is Immortallion the player who plays Galactic Crawler, Dirty Rat, Mind Control tech, all the techs? Because that might just be it.
Don't know if it was his.
Because we saw him beat Muzzy, and I feel like he was running the double Dirty Rat MC tech with all the tech cards, and that might explain why he wanted that swipe, because the other cards are not likely to bail him out of this situation. That could explain it.
That could explain it if it is that player. However, the situation he's in here...
This is exactly what we spoke of a second ago. You know, South Sea Captain is the one card that you just don't want to see. You don't want to see Keleseth, that's obvious, but South Sea Captain on board makes that swipe completely irrelevant.
All aboard, I think it is in this.
Yarr. And Shoop's got even more pressure with South Sea Captain #2 with Cold Blood. Let's go.
Yeah, my opponent didn't like that last one. What shall I do? I know, I'll play another one. Will he tiptoe around the MC tech? Yes, he will.
Honestly, how much he's playing around MC Tech or just valuing the two-turn lethal?
It worked out nicely for him anyway,
it's like,
sure.
Yeah, sure. I can just win the game. Looks like a sweep setting up for Shoop.
A very quick-looking sweep as well. 2 of these games have just been absolute massacres. And this rogue deck, very different to most of the rogue decks we have seen.
Yeah, it's got the usual Tempo Rogue package, I'd say, but like a larger emphasis on pirates.
And the weapons with the pirates.
Exactly,
well.
the weapon interaction, it seems he's valuing a lot, and it works out. You know, Dread Corsair, Naga Corsair together have always they've complemented each other as far back as Aggro Warrior in the early pirate days. Rogue was also attempting it back then, but they didn't. They had nothing to compete with the Fiery War Axe. Was really the big issue.
Now there's no Fiery War Axe to compete with anymore. Feels bad.
I wonder.
Does it really?
I can't complain.
So, before we write it off completely, the game isn't actually over. But how does Immortallion ever get it so that this game is over in his favor? Hasn't picked up a ramp card all game.
This is, again, one of the better lines. Like, you can see here that the South Sea Captain behaves a bit like a Keleseth in that it makes everything you have. The more pirates you run, the better South Sea Captain becomes. It's no longer just a I pull patches card. It can do that, you know, that's the point. But it also enables you to get the Dread Corsair to 4/4, so it stays alive more reliably against, say, Priest, for instance. There's so many little nuances.
That's going to be it. SI7 Agent's going to get enough through here. And as predicted a moment ago, Shoop going to take down the 3-0 super quick sweep and go to 7-0. That puts him in the top 16 for sure.
Yet another rogue dominant performance at DreamHack Denver. It seems like story of the tournament is Tempo Rogue sweeps it all.
Rogue is so scary to play against, and everybody wants to play it, right? Like Druid, Priest, Rogue are the 3 decks that you expect most people to have coming into this. And you think generally that Priest is very scary. I would personally think that I would want to ban Priest. But then you see Rogue performing this well. You see Rogue getting all of these sweeps. And whereas in Conquest you may not need to ban Rogue, in Last Hero Standing, decks like Rogue and Zoo, tempo-based decks that can get quick wins, are terrifying. Yeah. They are just a serious threat to your entire game plan, and we're just seeing Rogue absolutely tear its way through this tournament. And granted, Shoop's version was a little bit different than other variants that we had seen, much more pirate-focused, but still the same tempo-oriented Rogue deck, and it worked for him so incredibly well. So now we've got 2 7-0 competitors left in this tournament, and we are done with the round. That was our last game finishing up. We are going to be right back with round number 8 very shortly. Don't go anywhere.